Hello. Occasionally, those of us that play a lot of board games, we try to come up with a design of our own. I've attempted that several times myself. I've posted several of those here on this channel. If you've watched it, you've probably seen some, though it's been some time since I posted one. I haven't played any new games this week. I posted last week that I had my friends over, my friends and my son over for some gaming, so I didn't have any chance this week to play any new games, so I thought I'd pull out another one of my game design attempts. This one was my latest. I probably came up with this one. It's probably been several months, but anyway, just for something to do. And if you haven't seen any of my other ones, they range from terrible to middling to some that I think would be okay with more work. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go over this one, how to set up and play this one. This one's called Dragon Dice Town Defense. Alright, first thing you'll do is choose one player to be the dragon player. They'll take this dragon den playmat, this dragon graveyard tile or mat, and the 15 dragon dice. You got 5 black, 5 green, and 5 red. The dragon den playmat should be placed in the center of the table. The graveyard should sit near the dragon player, and then the dragon player can place the dragon dice on the playmat like so. Alright, if setting up for a 4-player game, you'll have 3 players that are playing the Town Defenders. They'll take a deck of 16 cards. They'll have 1 Sorcerer's Apprentice. They'll have 3 Sorcerer cards, one with 2 magic shields, one with 1 magic shield icon, and one with no magic shield icons. Now the artwork for each of the decks is slightly different, but for example, for this deck, this is the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and this is the Sorcerer. So they're not exactly the same, but close enough that each player will know which ones they need to get. So anyway, the 3 Sorcerer cards, the 1 Sorcerer Apprentice. They'll have 3 Archer cards, one with a red background, one with a black background, and one with a green background. I'll have 3 Spearmen, 3 Knights, 1 Town card, a Magic Weapon card, and a Greater Intellect card. So each of the 3 Town Defender players will take these 16 cards into their hand. They should set aside from their hand the Sorcerer with the 1 protective or magic shield icon and the one with no protective or magic shield icon, and only keep the one with the 2 magic shield icons in their hand to start with. Then each player will take their Sorcerer's Apprentice card and place it on the matching spot on the Dragon Den player mat. It's kind of hard to see, but maybe you can see that this one goes here. So now I've set for the 3 different Town Defender players, I've set their Sorcerer's Apprentices on the Dragon Den player mat. You'll then take the 6 Battered Knight cards. They all have the same picture on them, 6 Battered Knights, and just set them somewhere near the player mat. And that completes setup. Players will have their hands of cards. Remember, these are just set aside. Their Sorcerer with the 1 and no magic shield. The other cards they'll keep in their hand so that the dragon player does not see what they're playing. Alright, so the basic premise of the game is the dragon player has a horde of dragons living in the dragon den, and each round he'll send 1 dragon to attack the nearby town, and each of the players is like a leader of their own defense group of warriors from that town, and they choose 1 warrior from their hand to try to fend off and defeat the dragon that is attacking that round. The sorcerer's apprentices up here kind of act as spies to help the players know what types of dragons may be available to come attack the town, but not exactly which one. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how we play. So the first thing that will happen during the round is the dragon player will gather up all the dragon dice, roll them, and that will kind of determine what dice are available for the dragon player to send to attack that round. So let's look at a dice. They can have several results. This is a dragon claw, which can be defeated by one of the knight cards. So that's a melee attack. So the knight, using his shield and sword, can fend off and defeat a dragon using a melee attack. We've got that's kind of supposed to be like a dragon scale. This is a attack. The dragon is just coming to attack the town, basically ramming it with its body, and so a spearman is able to penetrate the dragon's hide and defeat a dragon doing a attack using a scale or shield there, a dragon's shield attack. Got intellect. That's supposed to be like the dragon's brain. When the sorcerer is the counter to the dragon intellect attack. They're able to outsmart the dragon, and so they can defeat the intellect attack. Or that's cunning is what I think I wrote in the rules. The dragon's cunning attack. We've got, of course, the dragon's breath, fire breath attack. That's a ranged attack, so a defender playing an archer can defeat a ranged or fire attack. That covers the possible different attacks. Now the black dice have something on every side. The red dragons and the green dragons have at least one blank side. So after the dragon player has rolled their dice and the players see what possible choices the dragon player has to attack this round, they'll choose one of the cards from their hand to hopefully counter the die that the dragon player is going to choose. So if they think that he's going to choose a dragon scale attack, they may want to choose their spearman because that's what can defeat that. If they think they're going to do a fire breath attack, they'll choose an archer. And if they think they're going to do a cunning attack, they will choose a wizard. And if they think they're going to do a melee attack with the dragon claw, they will choose a knight. So let's talk a little bit more about the cards. As I said, the sorcerer will defeat a cunning attack if that's the dice, the dragon that they choose to send that round. So if the player chooses the sorcerer, they would defeat the cunning attack, and the dragon player would then just move that dice into the dragon graveyard. However, if a player played the wizard and they revealed they choose any other dragon die, like a melee attack, if the wizard has two protective shield icons, well then he is able to survive long enough with his protective shield to defeat the dragon dice, but that wizard with two protective shields is then replaced in the player's hand with a wizard or sorcerer with one protective shield. Again, that one can defeat a cunning, but if it encounters any other dragon, then again its protective shield allows that sorcerer to survive long enough to defeat that dragon, but it is then replaced with a sorcerer with no protective shields, and that one can only defeat a cunning attack. If this sorcerer with no protective shields comes up against any other dragon die, then it would be defeated, and the dragon would not be. One other result of the sorcerer being defeated by a dragon is that the dragon is able to resurrect one of their dragon die from the graveyard. As I mentioned, the spearman will defeat a dragon doing a armor attack, but so if they correctly choose a spearman to come up against an armor attack, then they get to keep their spearman card, and the dragon die would be discarded to the graveyard. But against any other dragon, then the spearman would be discarded. If they choose a knight card, that is able to defeat the melee, the dragon claw melee attack. If they come up against any other type of dragon, then they are defeated, but they're not completely, they're not killed. The knight card is discarded, but if there's an available battered knight card, then the player can take that card and put it into their hand. However, if a battered knight card comes up against anything other than Dragon Claw, then it is discarded back to the pool of battered knight cards. All right, the archers, as I've said, can defeat a ranged attack, a flame attack. So any archer, the red, green, or black, that goes up against a red dragon, green dragon, or black dragon doing a fire breath attack, then the archer survives and the dragon is killed. However, if they come up against anything else, like if you chose the black archer and he came up against a dragon doing an armor attack, then he would be defeated and discarded. But if they come up against a attack of a dragon that is the same color as them, then they don't defeat the dragon, but they were able to stay camouflaged, and the archer themselves is not destroyed. They get to go back into the player's hand. So if they go up against a dragon die of the same color as them, and it's not a fire attack, then they don't defeat that dragon, but they are not destroyed. But if they go up against anything other than a fire breath attack, and they are not the same color as the dragon die that's chosen, then they are defeated and discarded. Alright, we also have a magic weapon card. So the town defender can play any of their warriors, spearman, archer, knight, and if they play it with the magic weapon card, then as long as the dragon they go up against is anything other than a cunning dragon, then they defeat it. However, once you use the magic weapon card, it has to be discarded, so it's a one-use card. We have something similar with the greater intellect card, so that can be played along with any other warrior. And if for example, if the player played this combination of two cards, the greater intellect along with this knight, if they encountered a melee attack dragon, they would defeat it because of the knight. But if they encounter a cunning attack dragon using cunning, then they would still defeat it because they have the greater intellect. However, just like the magic weapon, the greater intellect is a one-use card. Once it's used, it gets discarded. The only other card in the deck is the town card. So the defender players will always play two cards. They will always play a warrior and the town card. When they play them face down, so the dragon player does not know what they chose. But if they decide to use a cunning attack or a magic weapon card or a magic weapon, then they don't play their town card. They play that along with the warrior. So that way the dragon player never knows if they're playing their magic weapon or their cunning because they're always playing 2 cards. So the town card is basically just a disguise that's played with any warrior unless you're playing the cunning or, the greater intellect or the magic weapon card. So let's talk about the Sorcerer's Apprentices. So normally, as I said, how a round works is the dragon player will roll the dragon dice. The town defender players will then view what the dragon player has available that he may attack with that round. Then they'll choose which warrior or sorcerer that they're gonna that they think is going to defeat whichever one they think the dragon player is going to choose. So they'll once they've chosen, they'll put their cards face down in front of them. Each player will do that. Once they've chosen, then the dragon player will choose one of their dice, place it up here on the dragon, and that's the one that they're attacking with that round. Then the players will reveal their cards simultaneously and see if they defeated that dragon die or if their card was defeated. Now, it's compared simultaneously, so even if one player's card, for instance, they're choosing the armor attack here. Even if one player did choose a spearman and is going to defeat that dragon, if the other players chose a knight and an archer, they'll still be defeated, but then the dragon die will also be defeated. So just because one happens to defeat it doesn't mean the other ones don't also have to compare. It's a simultaneous combat. But as I said, the Sorcerer's Apprentices let the town defenders know by using their magical connection to the sorcerer to let them know what dragons are available up here in the dragon's den. So one thing the dragon player can do after they roll, if they have enough cunning dice, they can take one cunning dice and cover each of the sorcerer's apprentices, and then the defender players have to choose their cards like normal, but then the dragon player gets to re-roll the other dice, not including the ones they've placed on the town defenders, and then choose from that roll. So in that way, they may get a result that the other players weren't anticipating. And then at the beginning of the next round, they can take their dice when they're going to re-roll for the next round. They take their dice off of the Sorcerer's Apprentices, and we'll roll those with all the rest of their surviving dice. The other role of the Sorcerer's Apprentice is that once the one player or a player has lost their sorcerer for good, so as I mentioned the first time they go up against anything but a cunning dragon, then they win that battle, but they have to discard their 2 protective shields and take the 1 protective shield in their hand. And then once that one goes up against anything but a cunning, then they finally have to take this one. Once their final or their sorcerer that has no more protective shields is defeated and they don't have any more sorcerer, then they must take their Sorcerer's Apprentice back into their hand. And that will act just like a sorcerer in that it can defeat a cunning dragon, but it will not defeat any other dragon. But also, that player, now that they no longer have a Sorcerer's Apprentice up near the dragon's den, they will always have to choose their cards before the dragon player rolls their dice. Okay, so as the rounds go by, players will have to discard warriors as they're defeated. The dragon player will have to discard dice to the dragon's den as they're defeated. So if the dragon player ever loses all their dice, all their dragons, before all the players have lost all of their warriors, then the dragon player loses, and the warrior player or the town defender player who has the most warrior cards left in their hand will be the winner. However, if the dragon player has dragon dice left after all the other players have had their warriors defeated, have no more cards in their hand that they can play, then the dragon player wins. Alright, so let's do an example round. Since I've been messing with these dice, I'm going to go ahead and re-roll them. Alright, see what we've got here. Okay, so now the town defender players will look at the dice that the dragon player rolled and try to determine what they think he's going to pick. So he rolled quite a few fire breath attacks, so maybe this player thinks he's going to attack with a fire breath, so maybe he plays black archer, and again they'll always play 2 cards, so they're going to either play their town card or their magic weapon or greater intellect card along with whichever warrior they choose. So he chooses those 2. This player thinks maybe he's going to use one of his melee claw attacks, so he chooses his knight, again along with his town card since he's not using his magic weapon or greater intellect. He'll place those face down in front of him. And this player thinks that they're going to attack with one of their cunning attacks, so they choose their sorcerer. And again, they'll place that face down in front of them along with their town card since they're not using their greater intellect or their magic weapon. So once all players have played their cards face down in front of them, the dragon player will then choose one of the cards that they're going to attack with. And we'll just say he chooses to do a armor attack, or he's using his body to try to smash the defender. So he places his die there. So now all the other players will reveal what they played and then determine the outcome. So the archer, he played an archer. That does not defeat a armor attack, and it is not the same color as the die played, so his archer is killed by the dragon and has to be discarded. His town card just goes back into his hand. This player chose a knight. Again, that does not defeat an armor attack, so the knight is defeated, but he's not killed. This knight card is discarded, but he's replaced with a battered knight that goes into that player's hand, and his town card goes back into his hand as well. And finally, this player played their sorcerer thinking a cunning attack was coming. He didn't play a cunning attack, but because this guy played a sorcerer with 2 protective shields, he does defeat this dragon with his magic, but he used a lot of his magic to fend off that dragon, so he has to now be replaced with the sorcerer with 1 magic shield. So that goes back into the player's hand. Alright, so that would be 1 round. So now the dragon player will roll his surviving dice. He lost 1 dice to the graveyard there. So he will then re-roll his other dragon dice. Rolled a couple of blanks that time, so not as good a roll. Now the players can see what he has available, and they will choose what they want to play against those results. So the first player sees he has a lot of cunning attacks, but thinks he's going to be sneaky and go with what he only has 1 of, which is a melee attack. So he's going to choose to defend with a knight. And again, you always play either your town card or your magic weapon or intellect, so you're always playing 2 cards. Okay, that's his choice. Alright, this player, he believes he's going to go with a fire breath attack, so he's going to play his red archer because he figures if he doesn't choose a fire breath attack, then maybe he's going to choose one of the red dice, so at least his red archer would stay camouflaged and return to his hand instead of being defeated. So he's going to choose that. So he plays those face down in front of himself. And this player decides to choose a spearman because he thinks he might come with an armor attack, but just in case, he does have 4 cunning attacks, so just in case he comes with a cunning attack, he decides to play his greater intellect as well. So he places his 2 cards face down in front of him. So now they've all chosen their cards, so the dragon player will choose what dragon he's going to attack with, but he decides to be tricky, and now he places a cunning die on each of the sorcerer's apprentices. So he gets to re-roll his dice. The players cannot change the cards that they've chosen, but this player does now get to re-roll the dice, but not including the cunning dice that he's placed on the sorcerer's apprentices. So he re-rolls. Now he doesn't have any blank results, and now he gets to choose from one of these dice, and we'll say he decides to go with the he's going with a cunning attack. Alright, so the players will reveal their cards and compare. This guy chose a knight, so that's not against a melee attack, so his knight is defeated, but he is replaced with a battered knight, so this guy will take a battered knight into his hand along with his town card. This guy played a red archer, so that is not against a fire attack, so he's defeated. If that had been a red cunning attack, then he would not be defeated. He would get to go back into the player's hand, but it's not, so this player must discard his archer. He does take his town card back into his hand, though. Now this player, he played his spearman, but he did play the greater intellect, so he does defeat the cunning die, but his greater intellect is now spent, so he has to discard that card, but his spearman does survive and goes back into his hand. Alright, we'll do one more round. Alright, so now the dragon player gathers up the dice he put on the sorcerer's apprentices, re-rolls his remaining dice. Got a couple of blanks there on reds. Alright, so the players look, he got a whole lot of armor attacks, a few dragon claw melee attacks, and one fire breath attack. Alright, the first player here thinks he may come with that fire attack since he's only got one. He thinks he may be sneaky and come with that, but he's going to play the red just in case he thinks he might choose one of those red dice, so he would at least survive if it's not a fire attack, but he chooses a red archer, so he's going to play those cards face down. Alright, this player is going to choose his spearman since this guy rolled so many armor attacks. He thinks he's going to come with his dragon scaled body and attack, and his spearman will pierce through those dragon scales, so he's going to choose his spearman. So again, those cards are played face down in front. And finally, the last player, he decides to go with his black archer, but he's taking a magic weapon just in case. So once all the players have played their cards face down, the dragon player will then choose one to play. And indeed, he chooses a red armor attack for the red dragon to attack with his scaly hide. So all players will reveal what they chose. Alright, first player, he chose an archer, so he chose incorrectly, but he did go up against a red dragon, so he managed to stay hidden, camouflaged. He doesn't defeat the dragon, but he does get to survive and go back into his player's hand. Alright, this player correctly chose a spearman. A spearman does defeat an armor attack, so he will survive and go back into his player's hand along with his town card. The dragon will be defeated, but we still have to compare against this one. This guy chose incorrectly, choosing the archer, but he did bring his magic weapon, so he would defeat the dragon as well, but it was kind of a waste because the dragon was defeated by the other player's spearman. But in any case, he played his magic weapon. Because of that, because he played his magic weapon, he's not defeated. He also contributed to killing the dragon, but magic weapon is a one-time use, so that goes into the discard pile. He does survive and goes back into his player's hand, but this dragon is now defeated, and we go on to the next round. Alright, I'm going to wrap it up there. Anyway, I think you can see how it plays. Again, you play till either the dragon player runs out of dice, and then The player who has the most of their warriors left in their hand is the winner. When you are counting warriors left in your hand to count toward the winner, you cannot count battered knights. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. But if the dragon player manages to survive long enough to defeat all the players' cards, then they're the winner. So that's it. This one's, I think this one came out okay. I did play it with uh, my friends and my son and my wife last week when they were here, and they thought it was pretty good. So, you know, uh, I don't know if it copies somebody else's design. I don't think it does. Just came up with it one day, but I think it's one of my better ones. Again, I've shown, I don't know how many other, at least four or five others I think I've tried to come up with in the past, and some of them are real stinkers. I don't think this one's a stinker. I don't think it's great by any means. It's okay. Anyway, just thought I would share. I'm sure you guys try to come up with your designs sometime. Maybe put in the comments and let me know, if you try to design your own games at times. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.